Hey everyone, we're back for High School Sports Talk Plus with the coach Ed Young. Squeezing a little tighter. We're going to move it a little.
That's me.
There we go. There we go. Perfect. I'm Matt Hatfield, and we did this last week. We made predictions, and they were sure to go wrong, and a lot of them did go wrong. But we're going to try to make them
A lot of
right
yours
this
went
time.
wrong. Mine went right.
Yeah, and I'm not too happy about that. So all you teams that lost, shame on you. We're not going to talk about you anymore because you're done. You're finished. You're gone. We're going to talk about the teams that are winners and moved on to the state playoffs as the regional playoffs have finished up this week, or finishing up this weekend, I should say, Ed. And now we've got 4 teams from each region punching their ticket to the state playoffs. That's 8 for every division. If my math is right, 8 times 6 is 48. So that's 48 boys, 48 girls teams. How about that?
96.
96 teams. That's a lot of teams that are moving on to the state playoffs. And by the end of it, we'll tell you who the 6 best are in boys and girls because they'll win championships. And this week, though, before we get into each division, we saw maybe the most dramatic finish we've seen in a high school basketball game in a while as Smithfield beat Lake Taylor on a 45-foot buzzer beater, a prayer by Keon Tucker, which was answered not once but twice because this week he hit a game winner in the corner against Hanover and was fouled and had his 4-point play completed at the free throw line. Keon Tucker is the, I think, mayor of Smithfield now, is he not?
Well, I tell you what, he had a career in back-to-back games. I mean, think about kids sometimes dream about hitting the crazy shot, the winning shot, free throw. He did it in back-to-back games, including the free throw, getting fouled on a three-pointer that he made. You know, that stuff just doesn't happen every day, but it happened back-to-back to him, and hats off to him and Smithfield. Unfortunately, they lost to Jamestown.
Yeah.
In their 4th meeting, but they'll both keep moving on. Who knows? Maybe a 5th meeting.
Yeah, you could see a 5th meeting with those 2 teams. You could see a 5th meeting with Hampton and Bethel, and who knows? We could even see a 4th meeting with Elsie Bird for Ryan. As we're seeing a lot of teams play each other again. Perhaps even on the girls' side of things, a 5th meeting with Princess Anne and Salem. As Salem surprised Princess Anne girls in 5A by winning the region semifinals. So Princess Anne playing in a consolation game, not their region championship, which is the norm for them going back to 2007, the last time they didn't play for a region title under Coach Darnell Dozier, and they've been to the state final now, 7-8 years in a row it's been at least, it seems like. So Salem girls now have to be taken seriously as a threat in 5A, where we've kind of, talked about all year long, it'd be a Princess Anne Highland Springs collision course. Hold on now.
Yeah, Salem has gotten hot at the right time. PA not playing for a regional title, it's unheard of.
It's weird, isn't it?
But the way the setup it is, you know that if you lose, you're going to still go on. Not that coaches and kids really don't care, because the mindset, and I've kind of been in that situation, you still want to win. But even sometimes losing in those situations is a better matchup for your team down the road. But again, not insinuating in any circumstances that any coach or player is trying to lose to better their matchup down the road. You really don't say those kind of things when you're playing. You want to win games.
Oh, of course. And, the interesting thing to me, Ed, is now with the new state tournament format going back to quarterfinals and semifinals being played at a super site, which I actually like that.
I really like that.
But I don't like the predetermined location for it because now you have them all at different sites, be it Virginia High for 2A, VCU in 3A, 4A's got the Salem Civic Center out there in Roanoke. 5A has Old Dominion, it's Hampton University. It was supposed to be Old Dominion. It'll be at Hampton University for girls and boys. And 5A, which we like because it's close to us from a location standpoint and proximity. And 6A up at Lake Braddock and Robinson. The drawback is I'm not crazy about the fact that if you win your region or you finish runner-up in your region, usually that was the golden ticket or golden nuggets. You get that 1 or 2 seed. You get to host a quarterfinal, a semifinal, whatever it would be. Now it's on a floor where if you win a region, you could be playing a 4 seed who's going to have almost a home court type of edge because of the travel. I'm not crazy about that. I don't think they should have predetermined where those teams would go.
I understand you have to predetermine for setup and, you got to get your security and where officials are going. You can't just do it on a spur of the moment. I still would like where you get the matchup first, then you determine where you're playing. Where's the best place to do it? And then I think you still have time to get all that set up. I also like the idea of the super sites, but I also think the thing I've never liked in this situation, you have some teams that will play at the Siegel Center on a conference championship or tournament, a regional, and then they get to play in the state. That's a big advantage. I think when you go to states, you should go to states. Now, last year they brought everybody to Richmond. It took a whole week to get through. It's a lot of, missing school and whatever. I just think that at least the semis and the championship should be on the college floor at Siegel Center.
See, I would disagree on the semis part because now you've broken it up into 2 weeks, 3 days, and I think the travel on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is tough. Now having it Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I think is more ideal. They took away the morning championship games, which is great. They're all going to be in the afternoon.
Yeah, I don't like the
evening.
morning games either.
But I don't have a problem with the neutral. Now the thing is with that though, some of these teams they got to travel. If they can't stay overnight, you might have a team, say from Norfolk, have to go to Roanoke and back, or a team from Northern Virginia have to go to Tidewater and back, or wherever it might be. That's the thing that gets a little dicey and maybe not the easiest to deal with. We saw this week Lansdowne and boys 6A go almost 10 hours round trip to Franklin County and go hundreds of miles going and coming back out to Rocky Mount, Virginia, over 2,100 screaming fans for Franklin County, and they won the game and did so without a key player injured in Brent Stukes and a key guy battling illness in Michael Christmas, their best player, in fact, leading scorer, and they still won the game. But that's tough on a Wednesday night to make that trip.
Yeah,
in a game that wasn't a win or go home game. They were already in states.
Yeah, they're already in. I just like the idea of reseeding throughout to get your best possible state matchup. And then as far as where you're playing, I think the higher seed should have the advantage. Not so sure once you get in the state tournament you should be playing on your home floor, but I think you should be playing in your neighborhood. A school that can host a crowd that's at least in your neighborhood. Of course, the other way of looking at it is you try to pick a spot right in the middle, and both teams have to send their teams in someplace in the middle. But those local people in that area, they're not going to have allegiance to either team, so I think it could hurt your crowd. I just think the higher seed should play in their neighborhood, not on their home floor, but it has to be more of a state environment tournament when you go to states. I think sometimes the regional and the opening round of state looks to be the same.
By the way, I misspoke earlier. 2A is at James Madison, 1A is at Virginia High, so we left 1A out in that picture. We'll start off with the 6A. We just talked about Lansdowne a little bit. We mentioned a week ago in the video and on our radio show on ESPN 94.1 High School Sports Talk presented by VirginiaPreps.com, which you can hear every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon. That Ed, Lansdowne Oscar Smith boys had their feel of a region championship in the quarterfinals, and it didn't disappoint down to the wire. Lansdowne was up by 8 to 12 points most of the way. Oscar Smith came roaring back. Unlike Smithfield Lake Taylor, a shot at the buzzer was no good in this game. The freshman Cam Thomas, who's been great all year, did not have his potential game winner go down, and Lansdowne gets out of there with a win. And Oscar Smith's great season finishes at 21-3 overall, and then they go beat Franklin County, beat Western Branch to win the region title. At this point, though, Western Branch has moved on, like Lansdowne, along with C.D. Hilton and Franklin County as the 4 seeds from the south. It'll take on the north 4 seeds. Still to be determined right now is Woodson will play Madison in the championship game for 6A North, and then the consolation game features Herndon against West Potomac. Is Western Branch getting the tougher draw here now, potentially, as they could see West Potomac maybe in the quarterfinals? Paul Hall's got a good group. They've done a nice job beating Kellum and then C.D. Hilton, but this could be a tricky quarterfinal game for them.
It could be tough, but I think going to C.D. Hilton, middle of the week, I think that's going to help a little bit on that type of a trip. They played in, I think, Greensboro over Christmas time, so they made a few trips to kind of get their kids used to that, moving around, different atmosphere could help them. But then again, tight games in those situations, teams that have been through it tend to usually come out in the end on top, and those teams that haven't, may make that key mistake. One thing and I've talked with Coach Hall about his team here lately, is they're not doing a real good job of hitting free throws.
Yeah, they're shooting about 40-45% for the year, and they've done a lot of other things well. They had some turnovers in the second half, but Kendall Bynum and Braquan Harrell got them off to a great start in the first half against Lansdowne. They've used that nice rotation of bigs inside with DJ Driscoll, Deshaun Dixon, the Norfolk State football signee, also mixing in some others there on the front line as well. But it just seemed like late in games, they just can't knock down free throws to extend the lead or put teams away.
You got to protect the ball. You got to hit free throws. You got to play solid defense. Now, that's a recipe for any game, but especially in playoff state tournament time where, losing, you go home. They've got to hit those, because on the road, you're not going to get a lot of free throws, so once you get, you got to make them.
So projecting ahead, what do you think would be the most likely Final Four or state final matchup? Is it looking like Lansdowne-Woodson to you, perhaps, as you got two of the best coaches that haven't won a state title before, in Dwight Robinson of Lansdowne and Doug Craig of W.T. Woodson? They got to the Final Four a couple years ago. Remember, they both lost heartbreakers. Craig to Colonial Forge, the eventual champ, and Robinson in triple overtime to Westfield Is this the year for one of those two guys?
Could be. I like the White's chance at Lansdowne after that big win over Oscar Smith. They don't, Mike Christmas is a very, very good player, but they're getting it done with everybody.
Eric Marks is stepping up huge.
Exactly. They do a great job with their defense. That's kind of what they've always hang their hat on. Woodson's one of those teams that just doesn't make a lot of mistakes. They really run their stuff well. Their kids buy in. They're very good on their discipline part. It's an interesting matchup. I kind of like those two. Who would be the other two?
Well,
teams
you're looking at in the Final Four. You're looking at from the South here, C.D. Hilton and Franklin County. I'm not sure their team is really built for a Final Four title.
No, I would go Franklin County in that, but
they just beat Hilton in the consolation by double digits.
Okay, and I just don't see them.
And then now the North, West Potomac, who began the year number 2 in the state. They got to number 1 for a while, dropped back off. They've been playing great. Won an overtime game in the opening round against Fairfax, won the quarterfinals, then lost to Madison, surprisingly. They got a good backcourt duo with Khalil Williams-Diggins and Daryl Mackey. But Madison's red hot right now. They take on Woodson in the championship. And Herndon, which had a coaching change. Remember, Gary Hall left to go to Texas. They've got 2 good guards in Michael Griffin and Liam Harrington, who will play his college hoops at CNU, and you're representing CNU today. You're wearing the CNU
t-shirt
t-shirt
CNU. I don't know if they can see it on the...
there you go.
I got it. There it is. There, CNU.
He's got the captain's junk, and Corey will enjoy that. But
right. John, give me another one now.
The local Coach K, if you will.
That's a local Coach K. Or Roland Ross. He's in charge of equipment.
Now, they're getting Liam Harrington from Herndon, so they got 2 good guards, but does Herndon have the inside power to stop a Christmas in the quarterfinals if they saw him there, or even Western Branch with their bigs? In a quarter or semifinal matchup. So I feel like Woodson and West Potomac are the 2 best teams outside the 7-5-7 to win it, and then it'd be Lansdowne 1, Western Branch 2. I think Western Branch is good enough, but I worry about that consistency for 3 games with the foul shooting. Kent will rear its ugly head at the wrong time at VCU or up north.
And again, in these situations, somebody's got to step up. Maybe somebody off the bench, maybe your 4th, 5th scorer has a really good game if maybe one of your stud players doesn't come through. That happens a lot of times when you get to this kind of level.
I know you kind of feel this way because we talked about this off the air a little bit, and we can expand upon it before we move to 5A and 4A, is that I think the neat thing about 6A here is it's not as top-heavy as 5A. But similar to that little run when we had Westfield and Woodson and Colonial, Fortune, Lansdowne, those best players were young guys making the state finals, sophomores and juniors. I think we'll see these teams back again. Western Branch has got some sophomores, only 1 senior starter in KJ Simmons. Lansdowne's got a sophomore group. 4 of them have started, only 2 seniors playing heavy minutes in Tyrone Ozeni and Eric Marks. Woodson, 3 of their better guys are underclassmen. You look at juniors Matt Urbach and Nate Spurlock. They lose Jason Egner and Simon Mullah, their top defender. And then I think even Oscar Smith, if they didn't make it, they could be back in the hunt from Tidewater. So I think you'll see a few of these teams back here again next year if they don't finish the job.
Yeah, and again, the experience is tremendous. The deeper you can go, if you got a young team, you lose it, you look forward to the following year that, hey, I get everybody back, maybe add a piece or 2. Younger kid steps up, you're right back there. There's no substitute for experience at this level. It does mean a lot if you've been through it because you already know the day-to-day grind of winning a state title or getting a state championship game. And you don't know that until you're in it.
5A, Ed, looking at the championship for the South, which will take place this evening. It'll be Bethel against L.C. Bird, the 3rd meeting in the last year for them. Bethel won a year ago in the Virginia Preps Classic, the 8th annual at J.R. Tucker High School. DeJore Dickens, the big man going to Providence, and Jeremiah Owusu, the football prospect going to Notre Dame. Were dominant in that game. This year, Bird got revenge as Jalen Dillard hit some threes at the Hampton Coliseum in the Reebok Crossover Showcase. They got the Bruins that day as Dickens was in foul trouble. Winner gets the 1 seed, loser gets the 2 seed. Hampton Verona playing the consolation game. Winner gets the 3 seed, loser gets the 4 seed. Seeding is huge in 5A, but 5A is so very good, Ed, as Potomac rallied to beat Potomac Falls the other night. They play in the region championship game tonight at home against Albemarle. They have won 54, 55 games in a row at home. Keith Henry has built a dynasty behind the big fellow that you like there, Nana Apoku, the shot blocker. And Albemarle's very good too. Wakefield plays Potomac Falls in the consolation game. How do you see those games shaking out? How do you see the 5A picture?
I almost want you to put all the names in a hat and just let me pick. They're all very similar, to each their own of what they're good at. But they're very similar.
So how do you separate these teams?
I've liked Hampton all year. L.C. Bird has been in the driver's seat most of the year, undefeated for the longest part of it.
Then they lost to Lansdowne.
And Lansdowne got them. Bethel, they've got a great 3 with big fella. You've got Baycoat, Owusu. Bench has done a good job. They're not horrible after those three.
But they don't have a lot of scoring production on their bench.
No, and they don't go deep into the bench. And I still think the further you go, you've got to go into your bench a little bit. You got to give some guys some breathing time. I still, even though they just lost to Bethel, I still like Hampton a lot. And Bird, it catches your eye because they've been through that. So I'm sticking with one of those two teams.
What about the North?
Yeah, but
You like Potomac, Albemarle,
yeah,
Wakefield? Potomac Falls even?
Yeah, it's just so much. It's just too many teams that are really, really that good. The depth at 5A is really strong. I would take Potomac from the North.
Okay.
And yeah, can they win it? Absolutely. There are about 7 teams that actually can win that.
Yeah, I think of the 8, I think I give you 5.5 to 6, and you might not be wrong with 7. The seeding is going to tell us a lot. As those games next week at Hampton University could be fascinating. I think the best matchup, as we talked about on the radio, not to say Bird or Hampton or Wakefield or Albemarle wouldn't be great games. And remember, Albemarle beat Hampton in the quarterfinals last year. Potomac beat Bird in the state finals. Bird escaped against Wakefield in the state semis, and Bird almost came back to beat Potomac in the finals. These teams have played before. I think the most intriguing matchup would be the big men. If Dickens and Bethel took on Nana, Apoku, and Potomac, because you'd have 2 5-men that are legit, next-level guys, Dickens, Providence, Apoku, Mount St. Mary's going head-to-head, mano-a-mano. That might be the matchup that would draw the most oohs and ahs. Yeah,
it's a throwback to the day when you had some good get in the state tournament, some big man matchups. You just don't see that much anymore. But this would be, and again, neither one of those is a power big man.
Yeah.
Where they're real comfortable playing inside.
Both are on the skinnier side.
Yeah, they're more light side. They like to face up, but both are very capable. And I thought when Bethel beat Hampton the other night, I thought Dickens posting up and getting the ball and getting either fouled or scoring inside was really big for them to win. Because I think one little problem with Hampton's Achilles heel is they're not real strong inside. They got big kids, but it's not their power, so to speak. It's their perimeter game.
And you know what? I don't think who wouldn't mind seeing a 5th meeting of Bethel Hampton. Nobody would complain about that, nor would you complain about seeing Albemarle, Wakefield, LC Bird, any of those teams in the state championship game or state semifinals against someone. So you're going to get a good matchup no matter what. The quarterfinals should be fantastic. And
the thing about that is, even though like Hampton and Bethel will be a 5th time, they'll play like it's their first time because it's such a rivalry.
Well, this one means more than the first 4 because the loser's season is over.
Right, and that's what you're going to get now as you move into the state is losers out, whereas up to this point you can lose and now you're just playing for seeding.
Yeah, you can lose 3 playoff games and win a state championship, which is the new format.
Right.
Don't you wish that was the case when you were going to the region tournaments? You might have more than 1 ring right now.
I would like
Where's
to think
your big ring? You got to bring it for the next video.
It only comes out in doing games.
You'll bring it out in March, though, for the state. You will.
I might do it.
We'll do that just for you viewers to see how huge this thing is. A guy with a couple of big rings as well is Keith Honore at Potomac, trying to get his 3rd state title in 4 years. You've been high on Eric Brown at Hampton, and rightfully so, a great coach, one of the best in the area and the state. Right now, if you've got 1 game to win, any division, can you go wrong with Keith Honore at Potomac?
No, he's been through it.
Is he the pick? If you picked one guy? It's a hard question to ask you.
Yeah, there's so many guys
you
out
think
there.
of Vance Harmon at Henrico, you think of Leon Goolsby at Norcom, Dwight Robinson at Lansdale's done a good job. There's a long list of really good coaches.
Yeah, it's really.
Jack Baker at Maury.
In this situation, I would say if you told me, well, I will give you Keith Honore, I would not argue with it. He's been through that. You know, coaches are all kind of labeled in different ways. Some guys are great practice coaches. Some guys are really good on the bench that they can make maneuvers. Some guys are great at substitutions. Some are motivated. Raw guys are motivators. And this day and age, some are good recruiters. They bring in players. Though we don't want to say that out loud, but I'm going to say it. It's very rare you can find a coach who really gets top 3-4 billion in each one of those. But I would say Keith Honore has a good shot at that.
And in the single and lower levels, I think the likes of Rick Cormany at Radford and Mike Cardellaro at not Alta Vista. He's now at Perry McClure and doing a good job there. They're going to make states in the future. You watch Dan Rivers, Kenny Murphy, and Scotty Vermillion at Gate City, and even Jeff Atkins at Martinsville. Though they're done, are guys that come to mind as well. Spotswood out there out west with Chad Edwards. They've done a terrific job, and Chad Dawson at Loudon Valley at North. So there's just so many good coaches.
And you mentioned our area, Eastern Region. Jack Baker, Dwight Robinson, Leon Goolsby, 3 straight state titles. It's just so many guys. Kellum got knocked out. Norm Hassel, another guy that knows what he's doing on that bench. So There are a lot of really, really good coaches.
When Tony Bentley at Wakefield might be one of the more underrated guys too.
Right.
He's trying to get that first state title. He's been knocking on the door in the Final Four round for quite a while. Troy Mans at Bird's been knocking on the door of the championship too, trying to get that first state title as a coach. Won one as a player back at Patrick Henry Roanoke back in the day. We move on to 4A, Ed, as Lake Taylor was maybe the favorite. They're out. It's stunning that they finished up. Had a great year again, Kenny Brown's Titans did, but 0-8 from 3 in the fourth quarter and 5-12 from the foul line in the fourth quarter after going 5-5 through 3 periods really cost them against Smithfield. Smithfield moves on. They beat Hanover, lose to Jamestown for a fourth time. Jamestown, while everybody's talking about Smithfield with the game winner, and rightfully so, Keon Tucker is just the hero of that town. Jamestown's sitting there at 25-2. They play William Fleming in the quarterfinals, and Donovan Bridgeforth, speaking of coaches, he's done a great job at a program that's not been known for winning.
A couple of years ago, I remember watching Jamestown play and thought, wow, this team will take a while to get to that next level. Well, they're there now. Of course, Bridgeforth came in, what, two years ago?
Yeah, Mason Wang and Evan Wang, the twins, really changed the games about. We talk about Dickens being a game changer inside. There's not a lot of teams in postseason basketball that have great shooters, and sometimes you worry about a shooter being off. In 5A, Marquise Godwin at Hampton's one of the better shooters going to Old Dominion. You think of some other shooters around the state. The Wang twins, a pair of shooters, they really changed things up. And it gives Jamestown a chance. If those two guys are hot and can get hot for 3 straight games, we could be looking at them as state champs, which I'm not sure we thought about that at the start of the year.
I knew they'd be good, but maybe not this good. Mm-hmm. And if you have a good backcourt, a really good backcourt high school ball, that's going to get you further because there's not a lot of dominant big men. We talked about Dickens before. At Bethel at 6'11", so you've got to have a backcourt. If you have a really, really steady point guard who can run his team, does not turn the ball over, and you got his partner's a really good shooter, and again, I still say you got to play really good team defense. Sure. That's a good recipe to host a state trophy.
Well, there's not a prohibitive favorite in this 4A bracket like there is on the girls' side with Monacan. They got Megan Walker going to UConn. They also got Jaden Morris. They got 4 Division I prospects on that team for Larry Starr. On the boys' side, last year, Monacan boys with a surprise story. They're 15-10 as the 4 seed now. They've lost to Hanover twice in games they were winning, so they got to be a little bit like, maybe not quite crisp as we want to be. And they've got 3 starters missing from last year's team, though. Greg Parham, the senior guard, is playing tremendous for them. They beat Easterview in the quarters to punch their ticket to states, but back-to-back playoff losses for them. They take on Loudoun Valley, who's 27-1, ranked number 1 in the state right now. But Loudoun Valley's got to be worried because they were undefeated last year, and Monacan ended their season. So that's a rematch of a quarterfinal. The other game set, Smithfield, GW Danville. The winner there will take on the winner of Monacan Loudoun Valley. GW Danville is your pick to win 4A, and I think you're going to stick with it despite their loss to Hanley in a game they were up 7 in the fourth quarter and just let that one get away. And then you got Hanley, Hanover, Jamestown, William Fleming in the 1-4, 2-3 games. Hanley the 2, Hanover the 3, Jamestown the 1, Fleming the 4. Hanover the only team with a losing record in the bracket. What do you make of this field here as there's some interesting matchups in the quarterfinals?
I'm still sticking with GW Danville. I'm looking hard at a new prospect here.
Who's that?
William Fleming.
To win the whole thing.
I'm looking at him hard.
So you think a 4 seed could do it 2 years in a row, except not the East this time. It's the Fleming in the West.
Yeah, it'd be out in the West.
Okay.
But they got to get through an awful good Jamestown
I think Hanley has no disrespect to Hanover. You've had a good year, Ryan Payne, the whole crew there. They lost Jason Wade a year ago to Trinity Episcopal. They're still clicking, and they're going to states, actually, despite the losing record. I think Hanley has the easiest first-round matchup. Easiest.
Yeah, I would say that. And you look at that losing record, now it's an easier thing to say, 13-15. But this division here, though, not as solid as I think 6 or 5A.
No.
But could that mean that any of the 8 have an opportunity, which until the game is over, they do? But I'm kind of looking at GW Danville. I'm not giving Smithfield the due respect, sorry, Keith, because can another buzzer beater be in their future? Who knows?
If they beat Danville, they could be on their way because I'm going to pick Loudoun Valley right now, Ed, because we have the bracket set, and I think they're going to be so motivated with Monacan. That's the best thing that could happen for them because they lost to Monacan a year ago. They get them in the quarterfinals. It's a chance to get revenge. I think Jamestown, if they see Hanley, it will be a tough game. I think we might be looking at a Loudoun Valley-Hanley rematch, and Loudoun Valley won the West by a whisker against Hanley, and Hanley's been playing great. They've won now 23, 24 games in a row, I think it is, so they're playing tremendous basketball. I think those 3 West teams, the West seems stronger than the East right now.
Like I said, I'm going to stay with. I got a West team. I got GW Danville.
Okay. Looking at 3A state tournament teams, as we're going to go rapid fire here because we're running out of time, folks. We'll catch the girls.
Time?
Yeah, we're
We
running
don't
out of
have a
time.
clock in here.
Well, we don't have enough battery for all this. Anyway, Phoebus is the 1 seed out of the East. Who saw that coming? Not you, not
Still
me.
surprised.
They take on Western Albemarle, the number 4 seed, 21-7. That's Darren Maynard coaching them for Western Albemarle. His brother, Greg Maynard, coaches Albemarle. The Maynard brothers trying
Maynard
to
brothers.
get back to the...
They remind me of two other characters. I just can't think of who they
Who's
are
that?
right now.
Who's that?
The Maynard brothers. They remind me of some other character I've
They kind of
seen.
look like the Mario brothers, Super Mario and Luigi.
That's it.
That's it, yeah.
That's it. Super Mario and Luigi.
There you go. They'll get through all the Goombas and everything
Yeah.
and take care of business. Greg got to the Final Four last year. Darren did not. Western Albemarle takes on Phoebus. Upset alert, Phoebus. You've been playing well, but you better take Western Albemarle seriously. Ryan Ingram can play the guard for them. Norton. How about these two matchups, though, Ed? Oh, great games. Well, I'm going to see them Thursday at VCU. Northside John Marshall in the 2-3 game. Whoa, what a ball game that can be. Spotswood, the 1 out west, against Norcom, the 4. Norcom's the 4 seed, which is astonishing to me. They've lost 3 of the last 4 playoff games after 22 postseason victories in a row under Coach Goolsby. They still got that 1-2 punch with KJ Davis going to East Carolina and Travis Ingram headed to Towson, and then George with Heritage Lynchburg, which is also a solid ball game, but it's kind of the undercard to those Spotswood, Norcom, and Northside John Marshall. So much for Spotswood and Northside winning or getting to the region championship game. Spotswood winning the region. Your rewards are Norcom and John Marshall. Have fun with those.
And those teams got to be hot because beginning of the year, everybody talked about Norcom, Marshall being the teams. So somebody like Spotswood would say, okay, we'll come in as a 3-4. We're all right with that. But they're a number 1, and their 4th seed is Norcom.
Yeah.
Defending champion with Division I players in their lineup, been through this, been battle tested, and if I'm Spotswood, I'm not happy. I mean, yes, you've got to beat the best to be the best, but let me play the best in the final game, not that opening game.
Yeah. Spotswood, Ed, has won 14 games in a row, and Chad Edwards' team, I mean, they've long been a dominant squad. They've now won 132 of their last 146 games. You talk about best guys in the state not to win a state title. His team might be up there. And they've now got a big man in 6'9" junior center Daniel Odenkirk to go with James Sullivan, the Turner Ashby transfer, Cameron Irvine, veteran there. Northside, Billy Pope's group, the Vikings, they lost so many guys from the last couple of teams, including Kendrick Tucker, their star, but they're doing it with 4 sophomore juniors leading the way in Shea Webb, Julian Wood, Nick Price, and Devin Russell, all double figures for them. So you got a balanced attack from Northside. Those 2 games, I really think are toss-up games, and I wouldn't maybe not have thought that at the start of the year with Norcom and John Marshall having so much firepower. But they're going to VCU in Richmond. I think that's an edge for John Marshall because you know they're going to pack that place.
Absolutely. The justices will be in the house.
Trying to serve justice.
Absolutely. I don't even know if they'll have all the judge robes on, the black robes, but they'll be there. And I tell you, that's for either one of those teams to get those 2 teams in that first round. That's a tough matchup.
You know, it's so much about guard play we talk about here in high school basketball, but does Northside have the ability to shut down the size of John Marshall with the 6'10 freshman Isaiah Todd, Craig Jones inside, Isaiah Anderson, and can Norcom combat that 6'9 Odenkirk? You know, Goolsby's group likes to run, push the pace. Spotswood likes to do that too and play pressure defense. You wonder about those games. Can you handle those size guys? Spotswood's big man, and then in the case of Northside John Marshall's big men.
Yeah, I think Spotswood, maybe only because of what's happened lately to Norcom, would have a better shot than Northside.
I agree.
Marshall is 6, 7, 8 deep, and they can bring a couple more. Very athletic. They got those 2 transfers middle of the season, which has really helped them. So I would say Northside will have a tougher time than Spotswood.
And remember now, there's a quick turnaround from the quarterfinals to the semis. You play Thursday, Saturday in that bracket. It's Friday, Saturday in 5A and a couple other brackets, so it's even tougher. I think Phoebus, what they've done now with Antoine Miles getting hot in there whenever George With and Kyrie Temple stepping up, I think they've carved out a better path for themselves, though they could see John Marshall in the second round. Phoebus now could very well put themselves in this conversation for a state title, which we thought there was no chance of that.
No chance.
About a month and a half, 2 months ago. Because you figure Norcom, John Marshall, Northside, Spotswood, those winners are going to be tired that next game, even though you got a day to rest. It's not a long time to rest.
No, Phoebus has been the darling so far, and it can continue. But if they get past that, there's that rematch with Marshall. I don't see beating them twice.
As we close up shop, 2A East and West are going to settle their titles today in their consolation games. You got Robert E. Lee Stanton against Madison County, Bruton and Amelia County. Bruton in the state tournament at 10-15 right now. And then out west, it is Dan River and Richlands making the state playoffs for, I think, the first time ever. Scotty Ball leading the way for them. While Dan River is a usual suspect, 19-3 in the states. Consolation is Gate City and Chittum. Gate City 22-4, the favorite coming in. Dan River took out Martinsville, the defending two-time champ. And how about Gate City? They lose to Dan River 96-84. Dan River known for its defense. And Mac McClung, the junior guard for Gate City, scores 64 points in a losing effort. And guess what? He wasn't even a leading scorer last year. It was a freshman by the name of Zach Irvin. But McClung's averaging 28 a game. Irvin averaging 25 a game. Gate City has a nice 1-2 punch. Junior, sophomore, both Division I prospects.
Both sophomores.
No, McClung's a junior,
Okay.
Irvin's a sophomore.
Yeah, and you try to concentrate on one, the other one will drop 40 on you. So
No, the question is, where's their defense right now? Because they give up 96 to Dan River, and they might see Dan River again. Robert E. Lee, I know that's a team you like to win 2A,
yes,
but
I'm going to stay with
I'm
them.
going to stick with Gate City. But Dan River, we saw them a few years ago when they beat Bruton. That they have athletes. That is not a group to mess around with. And Kenny Murphy, I know they gave up 96 or 84 points to Gate City. He knows how to scheme up a defense because his team can defend people, and we saw them shut down Bruton that year.
I still like Robert E. Lee.
I still like Gate City. So Dan River, go prove us wrong because we like you, but we don't think you're going to win the whole thing. So
No,
we'll see.
I think they're going to have a
Remember,
say.
their shooting and foul shooting hurt them at times. So that they, if Gate City's knocking down shots, other guys besides McClung, they might not win the shootout the second time should they meet up again. 1A, you got Radford, George Wythe in the final. Eastside, Honaker in the 1A West consolation. And then out in the East, it is Alta Vista is taking on Matthews in the consolation game. Your pick was Alta Vista. My pick was Lancaster. They're taking on Essex in another matchup for them in the championship. That's the fourth meeting with Alta Vista. Lancaster could be a fifth. And I like Lancaster. I think they're coming along to win the whole thing, though I like George Wythe.
I'm sticking with Alta Vista, and I'm starting to look hard at Lancaster.
How are you? What about out west? Radford, they lose Blake Burdick, the big guy, Australian big man who graduated. They brought back the little water bug, Quentin Morton Robertson, who's scoring 20-plus now regularly, the point guard. Radford, they keep doing it. This is their last year in 1A before they move to 2A. Can they beat George Wythe again? They've haunted George Wythe in the past, or is it George Wythe's time to beat him?
I'm going with George Wythe.
You are? Okay.
I'm going with George Wythe.
Okay. But you like Alta Vista to win the whole thing.
The whole thing, Alta Vista.
Not so sure about that. That'll wrap up another edition of High School Sports Talk Plus. We went 32-plus minutes, and we didn't even get to the girl stuff, which we'll have to next week. We're just running out of time.
We'll get to it. There's too many good girl players out there, female players that can really put it up, and some really good teams. And we talk about coaches on the boys' side. There's a ton on the girls' side.
Yeah, there are. And quick hitters, though, as we say goodbye. 6A, I'm going to go Lansdowne girls right now.
I agree.
5A, I'm going to go Highland Springs over PA and Salem.
PA.
You're going PA. 4A, Monacan. I don't think we're getting any arguments from
Nobody's in touch
anybody.
Monacan.
3A, I like Brookville with Warner Dyke and Company. I'm telling you, 3A, I don't see anybody from the East beating them.
Give me some other teams in 3A.
3A, you want me to give you some other teams?
Yeah, I got to think of some. I got to think of some other teams. Brookville has tremendous history. They're used to this stage and that, but I'm kind of thinking maybe somebody new is going to step up and maybe bring them down.
Well, you're looking at for 3A, it's